Is there like a chat thing? I'm not very okay. So if you can't hear me, put something on chat. Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. I didn't know how to interpret all the faces I was seeing. Too much input. So, thanks everybody for being here. I'm guessing that we might have a few people jump in as we go. But yeah, I think that just to kind of outline what this is about. We had a call back in March with some of the folks who were here, kind of just discussing this event, the summit, and yeah, kind of generally what it means, what's going to be for people who haven't been there, and also kind of what does the summit need to be. And I think that that's kind of the theme of these calls, is that summits are, although there's some kind of recurring elements to them, and we can discuss this at the beginning of the call, I think what they've looked like in the past, they're also something that's very flexible and needs to be relevant to the time and place they're in. So that means being relevant both to being, an issue in 2016 and also relevant in the fact that it's going to be in Berlin, Germany, and Europe, but also relevant for all of the attendees who are coming, which is a global attendance. So with that, I thought we could start the call by kind of seeing if there's any sort of questions that have arose first off about the event. I'm sorry, Jenny. I'm in a Starbucks, and this is the only internet I have. I could try and go outside and see if that's quieter, but it's about the best I got because I don't have internet at home. So here,
Corey, there's another possibility. If you're talking about general things, then
it's not going to be quieter.
Maybe Bruno knows too.
But yeah, just to say what I was going to say is that we can start kind of by talking about the kind of summits generally, and then I think the main thing we want to do is kind of start accomplishing in this call and moving on to what will hopefully be a series of at least 3 more calls, is discussing this idea of what's needed and what's relevant. So Bruno and I had sat down earlier in the week with Yuko and Nick Krantz to kind of try and plan out a theme for the calls, but then decided actually that we don't know. And so that's kind of why we're here right now, is that these themes and topics, it's being recorded. Thanks, Alex. These themes and topics need to emerge organically. And so what may come out of this call today is ideas for themes for the future calls. So, we may have a particular call where we want to discuss fundraising, or we want to discuss what practice we're going to do, or what conversations we could have. But we can kind of emerge those today, and then maybe Bruno and Yuko and I will kind of harvest them. If you haven't met Yuko, everyone, she's helping us kind of post this process. Yeah, otherwise, that's the idea. So let's dive in. Maybe first, is there kind of, I think that generally on the topic of a Ziji Summit, I wanted to see kind of first off if there's any kind of questions or curiosity that's emerged, because I know that not all of us have attended one, and not all of us may be super familiar with what that is. I mean, I think I've talked to all of you about it before, but maybe we're fielding some questions on that. So I'm opening the floor.
So for those who didn't listen to Corey, we can maybe have a quick presentation of everyone, and maybe if anyone has a question, we can put all questions first, and then we can start answering between me, Corey, and everyone who has been on a summit before. And please, if you are not speaking, you can mute your mic. That will help a lot.
Hi, I can start. I'm Christoph. Can you hear me? All right. I live in Berlin and I work for Shambhala Europe, and I am the Sakyong's Kalapa envoy to Europe. And the reason why I'm on this call is that I feel young, and the other one is a practical one because we're booking this venue in Berlin through Shambhala Europe, and there needs to be some, like, we need to discuss some practicalities, I think.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex, and I'm currently in Santiago, Chile. Looking forward to attending in September. I've also been at the last two, and have been serving on the Ziji communications team, and wanted to. Although I'm about to step down from my participation with that group, looks like I'm repping them for now. So I'll certainly do my best to pass along anything that comes up. And the one question that I have is one that came to the Ziji Collective email address after we sent out the announcement. Looks like a guy named Nick Urban asked, a big question for me before booking airfare is, how much does it cost? Where should I stay? You know, those important details. So I hope that in particular, at least we are clear on the sort of intentions and processes around housing and costs, so that we can start to communicate that to people right away. Whether or not we know the exact number, at least to be able to say, this is what our process looks like. This maybe is a ballpark. This is what we're, like to have an answer to those questions, even if it's not a very fixed one, so that we can keep people interested as they start to hear about it.
Good. So I already wrote down these questions. So when we finish hearing everyone, we will talk about details, or at least the information we have around those details, and hopefully we can help address the question. By the way, I didn't say who am I. I'm Bruno Limenes from Mexico City. I'm with Corey. We're both coordinating or helping as coordinators of the International Ziji Council. And I'm Mexico City, where we held last summit.
Okay, so hi, this is Judith, Esther, and Emma from Berlin. And so we've been involved in finding the venue, which we found, it seems now, and now we just have to seal it and book it, just for practicalities. And so far, I don't really have a question, except maybe just about the global theme of the summit, but I don't even know if there's a theme or if there's any insight about that. And yeah, other than that, I guess we can talk about practicalities. We can have some answers about the question we just heard from Alex. I think I'm interested about where the teacher's situation is at. If yeah, there's been some decisions made on that, who's going to come to teach, or if that's still all in process.
Hi, I'm Emma, and I don't think I have any questions at this moment. Yeah.
Set up mute.
I actually have a little question for the three of you. I don't know if right now, but later, could you tell us a little bit around Berlin and the Sangha there? And I know Berlin just became the European capital of Shambhala, so it will be amazing to hear a little bit from how big the Sangha is there and everything. I think that will be really nice. So maybe we can put it as a topic for later. Thank you. Who else? Maybe Yuko?
Hi, I'm Yuko, and this is Amanda. We're actually calling in from Shambhala Mountain Center. Quite a treat. We're both in Denver. We were at the Ziji Summit in Mexico City last year, which was really amazing. And I am helping a little bit, Bruno and Corey, to do some calls over the summer to talk about the summit a little bit. So getting plugged in a little bit that way. And I don't think I have any questions.
I'm laughing. I just woke up, and my hair is like doing something. No, I think mostly I just have a question about, so someone talked about the theme, and I'm sort of understanding that maybe some of this phone call is about kind of like brainstorming or bouncing ideas about what we want to come out of the summit. So I just have a comment about that. It's not a question, but I think that'll come up later. So. Oh, wait. So I do have like one question, which is not totally related to the summit, though maybe. So I'm going to be going probably earlier than the summit, like the 2 weeks or the week and a half or whatever earlier than the summit, and then staying afterwards. And I just wonder, maybe if I can connect, if there's like a way that I can connect with other people who are like doing the same thing, who are like doing similarly, if they're also going, how I can find that information out.
Well, maybe I should go. Hi, so I'm Yannick Glavina. I happen to be living in Berlin too, and I work for Shambhala Europe, and I'm curious how can I be involved somewhat and participate and everything. So that's it.
So maybe our monk, Kurt. Are you there? Or well, temporary monk.
Yeah, I'm not here.
Or if he's not around, maybe Emma? I see Emma is also in the call.
Did you just ask for Emma?
They already checked in, I think.
Oh, sorry. I thought that.
Were you sleeping?
Never mind. Confused. We're just missing from some words from Kurt. Can you hear us, Kurt?
I think his mic is.
I think his image is frozen. Well, I can say a few words for him. He's been in the last 2 summits, and he's
Maybe Cord could type it out. Because he just typed.
okay. Just the
Yeah. That notorious Gamble Abbey internet. Cool. So, everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So I think we could just kind of start to try and answer some of these questions that were emerged, which are some good ones. Yeah, I think that let's see. I don't know. I took a little list for Ziji to I messaged that to you where I wrote that. So we can just kind of start fielding some of the stuff and try and answer it to the best of our abilities, and then kind of see where things kind of move from there. Or yeah, I think I'll just kind of just start going down the line. So Christoph, you had mentioned that you have some questions about practicalities. Maybe some of these are already kind of emerging. So please feel free to bring them in. And also, if you want to, I also want to say that if there's anything that you specifically want to use for Bruno and I, please let us know. We can either talk to you separately or find a time to do that. I do want to keep the kind of these calls to be kind of more broad and not get too much into the details, if that makes sense. But obviously, some details are necessary and some of the questions are brought up. Is there anything, Christoph, I saw yourself unmuting yourself. Is there anything else you want to say there?
and the question around teachers is, or a theme more than a question, really is we want this summit to be representative of the needs and of Europe. So we want to have teachers all that at the same time continue with the work that has been done with summit before, but also local teachers from Europe that can actually knows the situation there and can help us to work with all of that. And does this make sense?
Of the 5 teachers who were there last year, are any of them planning to be there again this year?
We haven't got 100% confirmation from anybody, but the plan is that Atari Lobel will be there, as well as Trinley and Nick is going to try to make it, and Marguerite. But the one we know for sure won't be able to come is Holly. I think it has a lot to do with the 100% confirmation is not the finances. Obviously, most of our teachers, it's not a cheap trip. And, Shambhala teaching is not exactly like the most lucrative gig in the world. So that's one of our efforts is to kind of fundraise to try and help support the teachers travel. So that will be a factor. But we've definitely got all 4 of them are wanting to come. I think for sure Trin is coming. She's helping organize the teachers too.
Yes, definitely. Query is definitely really good with all the names. So we're gonna, and thank you. And if you ever think of someone else that might be good for us to know, please send it in. And so maybe it's a good idea to change a little bit and start talking around like how's the situation in Europe. Like I see a lot of people from Berlin this time. Hopefully in the next few meetings we can start bringing more and more people from the Netherlands and England, Spain, and everywhere. But I would love to hear a little bit of any thoughts around the situation right now on Europe and themes, like a brainstorm of themes that you think that will be good. Imagine a gathering of people from all over the world. Like I've been impressed by how much wisdom we gather on these summits. And so you can imagine if we gather this huge amount of people in Europe, from all over Europe and from Mexico, Chile, and United States, Canada, what are these conversations that you feel that will be useful to have, or how to use this time?
So one thing that maybe this is really simple, but one thing I at least just want to know about or hear from other people, because I think it looks really differently, the landscape is really different depending on where you are, is how is your local Ziji collective addressing or starting up and getting into like social activism things? Like how are you guys connecting with Black Lives Matter? Or how are you guys connecting with what happened in Paris? Or how are you connecting with you know, just like different social activism traumas that are happening around the world? And I just like, what does it actually look like? So I think that's something that I am interested in Denver, and I don't necessarily have a clue of how to go about that. So I just want to know like what it looks like for other people.
I think it's worth mentioning that like one of the forms that we've used in previous summits and we will definitely use this year is open space technology, which is basically sorry guys that I have to keep my video off, is helping my internet connection. So open space technology is, for those who aren't familiar, is basically a form of allowing whatever like conversations need to happen. So essentially, it's open space technology. In short, there will be different kind of rooms or spaces for conversations, and people can, in the moment at the summit, propose topics. So there will definitely be that, because I think one of the things that's important that form allows is that it allows whatever conversations need to happen in the moment to happen. And Amanda's aware of this. She's been to a summit. So I guess I'm bringing that up partially for us to think about when we're thinking about ideas, whether open space technology would be the place where that conversation we're thinking about would be held, or whether it needs more than that. So that's something I'm curious about. So actually, I'd like to ask that of you, Amanda, like whether you think that like a conversation that you'd like to bring into open space technology, or do you see that being kind of a bigger conversation, which I could see as possible.
Are you asking me, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I guess my first thought is it feels like it could totally be something that is done by this open space tech style. I just would like really want it to be something that's on the docket of this open space tech strategy tool. I think so. The follow up to that is if like lots of other people at the summit are asking similar questions to what I'm asking, or like don't really know, or like just aren't quite there yet, then I feel like maybe it's something that Trinley is speaking to. And it's actually something that needs to be in a more structured, held differently. So it's like I don't know the answer. Like I don't know. And I feel a little bit like I didn't do like Trinley's track during the leadership retreat last year. So like maybe some of this was addressed and maybe people are already talking about this, but so I don't know. So I think it depends on like all like of the people that we know that are going to attend this summit, do we know how many of those people are like actively doing something in their communities and it's successful, whatever that looks like. And if that's like a pretty good percentage, then great, let's do open space. If people are like wanting to know the same thing, we probably need some guidance.
Yeah, that's great. And
I think that's really good, and I love the idea of everyone kind of brainstorming around like these kind of things, like social. If there are groups that are involved with social activism, if that's a common theme on everyone's mind. I could say, for example, when we were doing these kind of calls before the summit here in Mexico, it was quite obvious that the theme of diversity was in a lot of people's heads. And that kind of permeated the summit when it came. So we don't know if this, like the theme that Amanda just brought, could be just a conversation in open space, or could be even more than that. So it's good for everyone to kind of brainstorm. And if you have some ideas like that, that's perfect. If you think, again, and probably will, because Europe has so many languages and cultures, and it's such a diverse region, and that it will be a theme again. But if there's any other things that speaks to your reality on more directed to youth in Shambhala or youth groups, they're also welcome. So someone else?
Yeah. Oh, I was also just going to say,
I'd like to add something. I want to say hi, Marina.
oh.
Hi.
I just wanted to add that this is absolutely a conversation that is already starting, and so there's already a channel on Slack that we're using that some people are starting to get involved with. And then I know just yesterday, Marina and Trinley and Deidre had a conversation about this. And so the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because I have a sort of a process interest here in thinking about like not just like what is going to be at the summit, but how are we going to use the time that we have between now and then for figuring out what's actually motivating people to come. Because I feel like that's something that I still have a lot of uncertainty about, of like what is really like going to magnetize our collective interest in being there, and that's sort of one level up above what's actually going to happen at the summit. So the question of whether or not open space technology is going to be used for this or that is less of what I'm interested in talking about at this point in the in our collective conversation as what are the really important issues out there in space for us? What are the things that we're talking about? And I just also want to absolutely second Amanda's nomination of like dealing with the difficult reality of our world in this particular historical moment as something that's very motivating to me, and so absolutely co-sign. Do you want to add anything, Marina?
No, I'm not ready yet, but it's nice to see everyone. I'm eating soup.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And what I was just going to say too is that in some ways I didn't mean by adding the open space thing, I didn't mean to kind of prematurely kind of bottle that topic, because I think that's the kind of idea of these calls, is that we're seeing what's needed and what's relevant. So you're emerging that topic, Amanda, and it may be that through there's more people in this call who are interested in that and can bring that up, like Alex and Rainer are doing, and we can let that evolve kind of organically as it needs to be. I also have to say that, like, in the last call we had with a smaller group, this kind of did come up. Like, one of the things we talked about, so last year, kind of one of the things that for me personally, the summit super juicy and relevant was we had a big group from Chicago come, about I think 12 people, who they were from. They kind of got involved with the Chicago Shambhala from the Sakyong's work there with youth violence and in kind of dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago, and they've all gotten involved from this open mic night that was hosted there, and they really, I have to say, like, really made the summit kind of something else in my experience, like bringing that kind of reality. Because to be honest, we can be honest with ourselves of what Shambhala and Ziji Collective tends to look like, which is it's predominantly white, middle class. It's very there's a kind of a shared normal experience. So bringing in experiences that are outside of kind of that kind of our kind of normality, I guess, is actually really important. And so one of the kind of just ideas that got discussed is like a relevant issue in Europe right now is the refugee crisis. Like that did come up in the call that we had, where it's like, how can we kind of link up with these kind of things? So I'm not exactly sure how that will look, and I'm curious if people have ideas. But one idea that emerged at that point was inviting people in who are involved with that. I know that Yelmer, who's a Ziji and European, is I think he's in Greece right now, working with that currently. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of just trying to see this conversation and see if this goes. That's that.
Hi, I'm ready to say something. So I just was, I had a really nice chat with Trinley and Deidre yesterday, because we're thinking about how to expand the channel and have more conversations about the channel, meaning Change Social, on the platform Slack. And one of the things that came up is about, how there can be a lot of tendencies to when you want to do activism, to go out before really understanding what's happening right here in your current situation. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think they can be done in tandem at the same time. And I feel like I don't even really know who is necessarily in Ziji Collective. Like, I see faces, and I feel like there's so much unseen diversity that we don't know about. So we assume maybe, or that there's not a lot of diversity. And so, yeah, we may not have diversity in terms of like there's obviously not a lot of diversity in terms of skin color, but I imagine there is a fair amount of diversity in other areas. And I feel like I don't even know that.
Yeah. I guess something I wanted to add to that too is that in addition to sort of exploring difference within our own group, also thinking about who isn't coming, and if there are sort of if there might be it might be worthwhile doing some work early on, like in the next couple months, to think about what ways we might be able to invite people who, by just sending out an email, might not feel the connection to come. So thinking about who we want to reach out to, what kinds of ways we want to reach out to people. That seems like an important question to me. That might be an internal process that we could do some work around towards, that I think would also work alongside the sort of desire to get out and help that Amanda brought up.
So maybe to recap what's been said so far, in short, I'm discussing this issue, this idea of how do we as Ziji groups and Ziji as a whole get involved in a kind of socially aware way in our communities. There's a discussion of whether there's an interest in doing workshops or kind of more intensive discussions in the summit on this. Also, how do we bring this into the summit? How do we bring this kind of level of social awareness and connection? How do we, and who are we missing potentially in the summit? And then the thing I said in the message, Rena's, what Rena said is like, how do we emerge the diversity that we already have, which I think is an interesting idea. So that leads me to thinking about like how can we effectively get to know each other in a way that's deeper than kind of this kind of facet level of like, oh, I'm Corey and I'm Corey. The diversity of shared of personal experience, which actually, as I say that, creates an idea in me of like, I think actually it might be very interesting to have some like either small group or large group social imitation exercises. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that form. Which actually I think are a really great way to kind of allow space for kind of real vulnerable conversations. So I don't know. Is there any? I'm just gonna throw that out there. Let you guys know. Maybe if there isn't really anything that's emerging right now in this moment, I actually would be interested in fielding Alex's other question, which was, what is interested in what brings us to this event? Maybe we could do that. I'm thinking by each talking about kind of what we're curious about or interested in, or what's if we've been to summits in the past, what's brought us there, and that could help us kind of create that. That sound good?
Corey, could you write that one down? I couldn't hear a word. Sorry.
Is my mic not working?
I think.
Hello.
Yes, I think will be best if you write it down. Sorry, man.
Can I say something about the social action piece, brief? I think there's a number of groups and Ziji groups and Shambhala centers in Europe where there's people involved in social action, and in particular in these hot topics like refugees and so on and so forth. Those people are not necessarily on this call here, but like we know people in Spain who were involved in the like the protests against like the economic situations kind of thing, and I'm sure we have people who are involved in refugee stuff, and we could bring them to a call at some point. We just need to find them. But I think there's a lot of potential there. I mean, we could also invite people from, I mean, take your pick, right? We can invite people from the Ukraine and Russia. We can invite people from Belgium, from Paris, or whatever. We have a group, we have a Shambhala group in Iran, and we can invite them and the Israelis too, right? So there's some potential for the juicy topics. It's just not so that those people are necessarily on this call, but we can definitely find them. And I think it would be excellent to bring some of those topics to the summit. So that's all I could say right now.
Yeah, I that's super inspiring, not only because Marina was born in the former Soviet Union, but because I wanted to highlight something that you said in particular, though, which is that we need to find them. That it requires an effort on sort of on our behalf to think about who do we want to reach out to and invite them in and send follow-up and ask them why, you know, if there's resistance, what that's about, and go into like to start that process of thinking about sort of how we want to direct our energy. Because I think if it's just totally diffuse and open, then those kinds of folks aren't gonna show up. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Christoph.
Can you guys hear me again, or am I still dead? Can you hear me? La, 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 la. I wonder if there's a way to adjust my mic. I'll keep typing.
Yeah, sorry, Corey. I feel like, thank you a lot, Christoph, for sharing this. I feel like a lot of these calls are meant for getting this kind of information, like what's already been done in Europe. We're far away, so we don't know exactly. So with any of the themes that might come up afterwards, please, if you know of something already happening like that in Europe, let us know. And definitely, I'm hoping that from this call, people that know these people can go and tell them, like, hey, there's these calls and they want to know about what you are doing. Could you please next call come and talk even more, so we can go deeper and deeper on what's being done and what's needed for the summit. So that's really on tune of what I think that this call could be. So a brainstorm and also just a gathering of information of what's happening around.
There's also a couple of people here in Berlin who are not necessarily part of the Ziji Collective, but part of the Sangha here, who are involved in social change or things like that. So I think the most prominent member we have here, who is actually not officially a member, he is a former member of parliament, of the German parliament for the Green Party. And he's a lot involved in climate change issues. He was at the Paris Summit, for example, in the delegation from Germany, at the climate summit, right? So I can ask him if he has time he could say something at the summit. I mean, he's not very young. He's like 55 or so. But I think for some of those speakers, it probably doesn't matter so much if they're young, right? So I think that that would be like one of the most high-level contacts we have here in Berlin, and the I can reach out to him, and then he can reach out to all his friends, right? I guess that's how it works.
It sounds like, is everyone hearing me now? I can listen to my mic a lot, so maybe I'm kind of loud. But can you hear me? No? Okay, is this better with the video up? Kind of seeing like, okay, yes, can you hear me? No, okay, then just shake your head. Okay, I'm just gonna type.
I don't know if Corey already mentioned, but he's in Mexico City. This tends to happen a lot in Mexico. We have really bad internet. Sorry, everyone. In the name of my country. By the way, welcome Annika and Fred. Um, yes, so I don't know if everyone's reading the chat. I think that it's a good idea that perhaps we could pivot our discussion to the idea of what's bringing people to the summit. And I would like to also, for those who have come to other summits, maybe you can also share a little bit of how that's been and why you wanted in the first place to come to a summit. So maybe we can put everything on this topic. And now Corey's inviting also Annika and Fred to talk about it. But we see that Fred is walking around his house. Oh, there he is.
Hi guys. Oh, okay. So I mean, I've only been to one summit, and it was the summit in San Francisco, and it's kind of how I became involved in Ziji initially. And funnily, I would not have even heard of it if I hadn't been recommended and supported by people at my Shambhala Center to attend this leadership thing that they knew the Sakyong was supporting, and that was promoting enlightened society and doing this through social action. And to me, that's kind of what is inspiring about Ziji as a global project, because we all do really great work at our locations, in our individual cities and in our regions, and seeing and hearing from what everyone is doing and communicating as a global group of people who are all working towards enlightened society and social change and our cumulative goals. There's a lot of energy in that, and that, I think, is what brings me to want to continue this project. So I think we can, even when we're not at the summit, we can maintain that. It's a lot of deliberate effort for sure. I mean, but that's, I think, part of what Ziji has meant in it from my perspective, and what the summit kind of embodies a lot of is that energy, to allow us to be connected as a global group of people who are supporting each other in the individual endeavors that we have, and then in the endeavors that we can have as a group. So that's my 2 cents.
Was the question why I came to the, I only went to the summit last year, and the question is why I did? Well, my motivation in going was sort of feeling like there was this thing that I, knew that I was interested in. And I felt like I needed to go to the summit to kind of declare, like, I felt like it was going to be the summit that would make clear what the next step in my participating in Ziji was. It's sort of like, it was like Woodstock, you know what I mean? Like if you were interested in the whole 60s thing, like the thing to do was to go to Woodstock. And if you didn't go to Woodstock, it felt like you were going to feel like you missed out. Like you were just not where the next thing, not where it was made clear what the next thing that you needed to be doing was. So that's why I went. And I will mention that it was a real commitment in terms of time and money and things like that. So, the people who come really are having to, really say, okay, well, this is important, financially, and I need to take time off work. And, it might be the case that like that turns out to be the sort of Buddhist program that it's possible for them to do that year, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And then what I actually got out of it was what I thought I'd get out of it, as well as really a lot of inspiration and a lot of really inspiration, just feeling really inspired by what other people are doing, and just by this sort of general kind of vision that I sort of felt kind of manifest in some ways at the council, at the summit itself.
Maybe Yuko, Amanda? We haven't heard Yuko. Maybe this is your turn, Yuko.
Okay. I was just thinking, like, I think for me, one of the things that was so inspiring about the summit last year and the retreat was this idea of like co-creating and collaboration. That I think there's this, sometimes in Shambhala, we don't get as many opportunities to do that because of how things are structured. And there's this incredible excitement about this idea of like, oh, we can bring people together, and as a group and as all of these individuals, we can really work together and create something and have a vision for how we want to impact and how particular, like in Shambhala and outside of Shambhala, and we can actually do that. And that feels really important for me. And then something else I was just thinking back to the summit, it was a time of like, and the retreat afterwards, it was this time of, there was so much sincerity. I just really felt like everyone who was there, like we just created a space where we were connecting in this really honest, very deep way. And some of these like kind of walls all got to melt for a couple of weeks, and we were just there together fully. And that in itself was really powerful.
I'm sort of crying. Thinking about what you just said. No, I don't have anything to say at this point.
I think that something that really moved me towards actually the first one, the one in San Francisco, I got there because of a teacher, Holly Gailey, visited Mexico, and she was almost like, oh, you're going. Like, you don't know where it is, but you're going. She even bought me the flying ticket, and she just sent me and another friend to San Francisco. But the experience of being there was really incredible for me, coming from a really small sangha in an isolated country like it is Mexico. That I was so hungry of meeting young people so passionate about it, about Shambhala, that I was really spoke to me. And it was a beautiful experience of really of camaraderie. So really seeing everyone that spend the money and time to go from Europe to United States and from all over the United States to get to San Francisco for just a 2-day program. It was so amazing to see like the amount of inspiration in people to do something like that was really, really strong. It made the container to be really magical. And then from that inspiration, I decided to host the next summit here in Mexico. And again, seeing 60 people willing to fly to Mexico, some of them with worries of how dangerous Mexico it is or whatever. It was just amazing to see, wow, these people, they don't speak Spanish at all. They don't eat chili as much as we do. And here they are spending time with us. That was really magical and really opened it. Like what Yuko was saying of really erasing all the walls to really be able to be with each other. I feel like that's been what I mostly take out of these summits. Like I've been in all kind of assemblies, and I still feel like the Ziji Summits are one of the strongest containers of enlightened society I've ever seen. So, and it's really wonderful how these spaces can hold all kind of conversations, and so many projects can emerge from that. Almost every time that I go to every time, there's been 2, but the 2 summits that I've been, like, there's been at least 3 or 4 projects that has born on those summits. So it's really beautiful. I'm also impressed about how many people then leave these summits and then they become directors of their local Shambhala center or something. Like, people get so inspired and so motivated and raise so much lunta that they can, maybe they were already thinking about becoming directors, but at least from a couple of friends, they have already told me, like, no, it was the summit that really made me see how connected I am with Shambhala and the Shambhala vision. So it's really wonderful. So Corey is asking on the chat that perhaps we could hear from some people who haven't been on a summit, for example, Judith, Emma, or Esther. Or are you curious or maybe even excited about the summit? And then Alex.
Well, I'm definitely curious about the summit. I haven't been. I actually always wanted to go to one of the Vajra Dawn gatherings, which happened years ago, and I also didn't make that. So it's definitely been on my mind a long time. And yeah, I think there's just something really powerful about meeting with your generation and within Shambhala, but also maybe meeting people who are more outside of Shambhala. That's my understanding. That's also the people who are coming to the Ziji Summit, so people who are more on the fringe of Shambhala, or maybe who haven't been in Shambhala so much. I myself been in Shambhala my whole life, so I'm really, my main inspiration is really this topic of how to go out and how to bridge the gap, so to speak, how to really use what I've learned in Shambhala, or what I'm continuing to learn, and really apply that in the world. So that's my main inspiration for a Ziji Summit, to really reflect and contemplate with people in my age of how we could do that, how we can actually really be of benefit in the world, in our various professions or whatever we are engaged in. So also this topic of social activism is really my main interest, of how we can co-create that together. That's my main inspiration for attending a Ziji Summit, I would say. Same here. Yeah.
So what initially inspired me about the Ziji Collective, Marina and I were at an audience with the Sakyong a year before the San Francisco Summit, where the group in San Francisco that had sort of come up with the idea and the name and the sort of initial inspiration to get the Ziji Collective off the ground were able to invite the Sakyong for an audience. And Marina and I, who were in LA at the time, were able to, the Shastri in LA sort of found out about it, and since we had started a young Sangha group there, we were able to be invited to join that conversation. And that was the first time that we connected with the Ziji Collective. And ever since that point, it's been really important to me that this be a global network, that this be something that is really shared worldwide, and that it not be a San Francisco thing. And because I was coming from LA, Marina and Alex Milsom and I, who were the three who came from LA, we were the first sort of non-San Franciscans to be a part of it. So I always feel like it was only 500 miles, but that was the sort of first outside in kind of move that was made in Ziji. And then when the summit came to San Francisco, I had sort of a bigger scale version of that when I met Bruno and Pamela, who had come from Mexico. And we started speaking Spanish a little bit, and just wanted this like immediate connection that was born out of that inspiration and that container and everything. And it was like, Bruno was like, yeah, I want to host it in Mexico. And I'm like, I'm there, like, let's do it. So that impulse of like kind of sort of moving outwards, at least geographically for starters, has been a big inspiration for me. And it's something I'm really looking forward to for this next one too, is going to a place that I don't speak German. So, it's not somewhere I've been before. And I'm really looking forward to kind of continuing to push that outwards. I think that this was a challenge going to Mexico too, was thinking about how to kind of communicate what's inspiring us to go there in a way that gets people to make that commitment that Fred was talking about. And I think that's going to be another a big challenge. And I think that's sort of the big obstacle for me. And I think I'm really excited to hear that this question around how can we sort of make a difference now in our society is a question that's motivating a lot of people. And I think that that's going to help motivate people to come there if we can think about how to communicate that clearly. It's definitely inspiring to me.
So I also haven't been to a summit. Last year in Mexico, I was only available for the retreat part, which I think holds a very similar container, a lot of the people, or some of the people that were at the summit, were able to go into the retreat also. So I feel like I got like a flavor or a taste maybe of that, of the summit. But I'm just really curious. I'm really curious about this next one, because it will only be a summit and there won't be like a retreat part. And I think one thing, I mean, for me at this point, like, you know, I'm just hooked. Like the retreat last year was like so amazing, and just like, I don't even know, it just was like diverse, and it was, you know, I was introduced to like open space tech, and like doing like a graphic, you know, Marguerite's graphic sort of way of capturing conversation, like just so many amazing things. And I love Trinley, and like, you know, all of these things. And Casawerma is this beautiful oasis space, and blah, blah, blah. I think the point is that I'm mostly interested in coming to this next summit because I really feel like this is a global community. Like I'm so interested, and I'm so happy that it's like in Europe and that it's in Berlin, and it's not, you know, somewhere that's really familiar for me. So yeah.
A little bit just to answer something that you said, Amanda. And this year, this summit will be a little bit more of a combination between the retreat and the summit. So it's going to be longer. For those who didn't know, last year here in Mexico, we had 2 events with Ziji. First, the summit, that was a 2-day program, a little bit like the one in San Francisco. But then not everyone, but a lot of the people that came to the summit, we went to Casawerma, that is this beautiful land center here in Mexico, where we host a week retreat. And that helped a lot to go even deeper and really bringing a little bit more of the practice to our gathering was really, really special. So this year, by making the program longer, the summit longer, we're introducing a little bit more, or I think that we will be able to introduce a lot more of that space that we tasted on the retreat here in Mexico. And at the same time, something that I'm really excited for, that this is going to happen in Berlin and not in a land center, is that land centers can be amazing to hold the space, where a city center really helps bringing all of the things out. So you're really immersed in the city. And you get a little bit more of a feeling of what Germany is. I don't know if anyone here has been on SMC or another place. At least as a Mexican, when I go to SMC, I'm not in the United States. I'm in SMC. It's something different. And probably the Centralin is a little bit similar, although with the flavor of France, but at the same time it's not entirely France. It's a land center. So I'm really happy that we will be doing it big program, but within Berlin, and really get a feeling of, I'm really excited of being in Berlin. I've only been in Europe once. How's the food? Is it good?
There's lots of different food. Lots of different food.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, Berlin, of course, is amazing because it is so international. There is a lot of different types of food, but there's also nationality. Yeah, so many different people. And like you'll instantly feel comfortable there because everybody speaks English, but there's Spanish being spoken or any other European Turkish language, any Arabian, Turkish or whatever. And I think it's also the perfect place to host a summit. And also, if we get this place we were looking at, we'll be in a very vivid neighborhood. Very lively neighborhood, especially for young people. It's kind of like the hip place to be. So you'll be right in the city and with lots of like bars and restaurants and clubs around. And it's definitely the perfect venue.
Hey everybody, so Hugo and I are going to get off the call at this point. We only have a little bit more time at SMC, and then we're hosting a social meditation in the Fort Collins Center. So we're gonna go. But it was so good to see you all, and please put me on the invite list for the next one of these calls. And I want to be on the invite list for the like social action thing that's happening that I think Christoph or Alex, somebody mentioned. We can talk offline about that though.
Yeah, so Corey just said in chat, maybe we should all kind of wrap up here because a few of us do need to leave as well. So, Bruno, I guess, do you want to do the merit in 2 languages?
We do it in 3?
Yes, maybe just a tiny thing before we wrap up. We're going to be hosting these kind of calls every Sunday for now on for, I think, another 3 calls. So please invite more people. Use a little bit of what people has in mind. And maybe you know someone that are interested in what we talk. And we can please invite them to next call. And you can also please continue coming and spread the word. There's the little video that we made, and you can share it and just post that next week. It's gonna be the next one. So keep the energy flowing, and I'm really happy for this call. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thanks. So in a lot of these calls, what we do is we dedicate the merit in different languages. So I'll do it in Spanish. We have people in English. I'm hoping one knows it in German. Christoph, I'm assuming you know it. So maybe we can start with German, actually, this time. We're going to Berlin, so maybe, do you mind guiding us on the
I don't mind at all. I try my best. Durch die Zuversicht der goldenen Sonne des großen Ostens, die Zuversicht der Weisheit des Glühen, möge die finstere Unwissenheit fühlender Wesen zerstreut werden, mögen sich alle Wesen tiefgründiger, strahlender Herrlichkeit erfreuen.
Naja.
Por la confianza del sol dorado del gran este pueda florecer el jardín de lotos de la sabiduría del Rigden, pueda disiparse la oscura ignorancia de los seres sensibles, que puedan todos disfrutar de la profunda y brillante gloria. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom, may the dark ignorance and sentient beings be dispelled, may all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Thank you, everyone. See you in a week.
Tschüss.
Bye-bye.